A lot of the time, the code forces developers to put retail in. Like, they don't necessarily want to. They
Right.
know we have a housing crisis. People need a place to live. They'd much rather build units instead of retail. So it's like, but that doesn't really build a good city,
Yeah.
So
And, speaking of housing, a lot of people are now used to the missing middle housing as a term, and this is really missing middle retail. This is the smaller section of retail that doesn't exist today
Right. You're
or is
going from
underprovided.
your online store to the 3,000 square foot shop just doesn't make sense for a lot of people.
Yeah.
are we rolling, David? Yep. Okay, we'll keep that in. That was a perfect introduction. Stephanie and David, welcome to the show from Nimble Retail.
Thank you.
Hi.
Appreciate y'all being here.
Big
Thanks for
fans.
having us.
Thank you guys. I love how you just described that missing middle retail, giving people who don't have extreme means to be able to start a business and have a place to do business or to sell products without having to sign a long lease with a big commitment. I mean, it would probably cost 5 times as much, especially if you include a build out on a space. So this is a super cool idea. The name of the business is Nimble Retail. The website is nimble.shop. And let's start out from the beginning. I mean, what inspired you guys to create this unique business?
I'll let you take that one.
I think it was one of those infectious ideas that just kind of stuck in the back of our heads for a long time. And it just kept scratching and scratching. And finally, in 2019, we decided to not die with this idea in our heads. So we just took the plunge.
Well, let's step back
Sure.
just like slightly. So you went to Portland
Yeah.
and saw this tiny retail space like on a work trip or something like that.
Right.
And then you just really enjoyed kind of the proportions of that space and what was in it. And so you followed that space from afar for years and saw it like become different tendencies, different uses, a bike shop, a hat shop, like whatever. And I think that is what stuck with you. And then we moved to New York, where there is small retail spaces all over. It's not weird to see a little key maker or a little barber shop or a little cobbler, anything.
Somebody
and
who just
so
sells
we were just
muffins.
like inundated by it all the time. And then after living in New York for so many years, we decided, okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's move back to Tampa, where David's from, where we know how to do things like this and where you don't have
Right.
to be a billionaire to
Yeah.
start a business in Tampa versus New York. And we just decided to make a go of it.
It's interesting. I've got a project I'm working on, and I'm passionate about doing my own concept, but I've never been an operator before, right? I've just been sort of a real estate guy. And as I've dug more into it, I've realized how much goes into abiding by these different codes. And by the time you add the codes up, you're left, your vision starts this wide. And by the time you fire code and the parking and the stormwater, it whittles down what you can do. But I've also traveled the world. I've been fortunate across my life to go to different countries around the world and different cities across this country. And it's like, there's so many different cities where they'll have a coffee shop with like 6 seats, a little boutique with like 2 racks in it, and somehow like the world doesn't implode. So why do we pretend here like, oh, you have to fit within the box or else, oh my God, like what will happen? You kind of do have to travel to see things a little bit different
sure.
of a way. I mean, a shop like this or this Nimble Retail, I don't know that it exists at all in the Tampa Bay area. I mean, I can't even think of a city in Florida I've been to where you see these old places besides like a historic building that's been there forever and they're sort of grandfathered in.
Like Stephanie said, when I saw the one shop in Portland, that kind of started my stalking of tiny shops.
Do you remember the name of that shop in Portland?
Um,
Or what were they selling in there? Was it like a boutique?
I can look it up on my phone because I'm that good of a stalker.
I think what you said about spaces, small retail spaces in this area is exactly right. It's historic buildings, and they're the rare historic building where the entire first floor was not gobbled up at some point to make like one big space.
Right.
So there's a building in downtown Tampa. Maybe you've heard of it. It has a hub in it. And around the corner from the hub is a tiny little space called Supernatural.
Yep.
And that is
I think it's 400 square feet.
400 square feet. And they operate a kitchen out of that.
And people figure it out.
And people love it.
People love it.
Like, I think the smallness is a benefit.
It also allows them to start from the ground up, right? Like I think Supernatural is very creative in the food they offer and some of the sandwiches. And I mean, it's a fantastic place. The donuts are unbelievable. I go all the time. I love it. But my question to them would be, hey, if this space didn't exist for you, this little 300 something square foot space, and you had to go sign something for 2,500 square feet that you needed to do a build out, could you be in business? I don't know them. I don't know what that answer would be, but I would imagine that's a harder pill to swallow for a small business. So these small places are so important. Maybe one day they move out to a bigger place as they grow, right? Like, I think that's the whole goal with what you guys do. It's almost like this small business incubator.
It is exactly correct. I don't know if you remember this, but that space was the original duckweed.
Was it?
The very first one.
The very first duckweed. And they were so successful in that space that is exactly what happened. They grew out of the space, they had to move out, and now they have multiple locations. And it's such a great concept. And that's one of the things that's really special to us about Nimble is that obviously it allows you to succeed, but if you fail smaller. You're not paying overhead on the 3,000 square foot space that you've also had to pay to build out. And so you're losing your house or like whatever it is, or you spend your life savings on this thing. Like if you fail smaller, or you just decide that's not what you want to do. Before it was Supernatural, it was a little wine shop that was killer. And the owner of the wine shop was just like, you know what? I want to leave Tampa. I want to, get out of this. And no harm, no foul. It was not a problem for her to just kind of like quietly close up shop and go on and do something else and allow somebody else to move in, like Supernatural.
Yeah, I love the idea of reducing that barrier to entry. So, because there's so many people in this country that have ideas, but there's a big process to get things done. I mean, business licenses and the codes you have to follow, and there's a lot there. And then when you add on the money factor, out of 100 people that are interested, now it's whittled down to 15 or 20. And that's a problem in this country. We used to be able to, and there's negatives that come along with no regulations, because then things happen that are dangerous and all that sort of stuff. But, it used to be here where in America, like 100 years ago, like when my grandparents started their little store, like there probably wasn't many regulations. They just started this little hardware store and started to build relationships in the community. Yeah. And we've gone so far away from that. My fear is like, well, what about the millions of people that have these ideas? Like, how are they going to start if there's no opportunities like this? The only reason why Supernatural exists is because that's a historic building, right? Like any new development is probably not going to build a 350 square foot retail
Honestly,
spot.
that has been a small retail space ever since I'm a co-owner. We're co-owners in the building. And it was originally Bill's Pen Shop. It was an actual place where you went to buy fancy pens. So that actually has been a micro retail space.
Like writing pens or bowling pens?
Writing pens.
Writing pens.
Yeah, like a fancy cross pen or a Mont Blanc if we want to nerd out on pens. But
and you will.
Yeah, and these are an endangered species. So
Yeah.
one block to the east, there used to be a little newsstand, a little shoe repair next to the Presbyterian church.
I remember the shoe repair guy.
Yeah.
He was very proud.
There is
Al
one shoe-
Capone came here. And,
Is that guy still? Is that Lorena?
is he still there? No.
Lorena's still there, but he's a little bit south.
Yeah. But, when this project broke ground, they leveled that whole block. And without getting on a soapbox, I really think the city of Tampa should have developers have to put a bond in place. Like if you're going to tear down an entire city block, put some insurance in place
Yeah.
that this doesn't happen, where you get, 4 stories up and then oops.
Especially regarding a historic building.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about too, like One Tampa, right? They bulldozed that beautiful historic building where the First Watch was, and they're moving on that project, right? But what if they tore down that historic building and then some sort of market shift happened and they're like, you know what, we're not going to build right now. Well, then
100%.
we just lost that historic building.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. Like some sort of
It's
bond insurance policy where the city can feel like, hey, you can tear it down as long as you for sure put a shovel in the ground and build a development, something like
yeah.
that. Yeah,
Tampa has
totally
no
agree.
protection like that right now, and there are so many examples of people tearing things down with no plans to do anything but
Yeah.
maybe a surface parking lot.
And it's not a coincidence that we're where we're at, because you were talking about like traveling the world and seeing all these tiny shops elsewhere. You know, we're kind of in that hangover phase of post World War II. Bigger is better, big boxes like
Right.
that. We had like 50, 60 years of that.
And just parking requirements.
Parking requirements, but that all came around the same time of like big shopping malls, and that affected Ybor City, 7th Avenue. You know, you've got lots of small spaces that were scooped out. I think you said this earlier, so that you could put in a mega club, and that mega club's only open at night. And when that mega club fails, the only one that's going to refill that space is another mega club. And we built too many of them back in the 80s and 90s.
Once you lose it, you can't get it back because
Right.
the codes
No.
today will never let you do that.
So effectively, what we have to do is unwind that old habit of bigger is better,
Yeah.
and go back to small.
So how did this whole thing begin? You get this idea, you're super inspired by it. And what was the first project you did with Nimble?
Basically, the prototype. It was kind of a scary time of, no one else is going to do this but us.
Right.
And I'm very DIY, so we went into design phase, found some good fabricators to build our frame, researched all the products, started putting the pieces together. And it was a long, arduous trip, and it's still going.
Yeah.
But it's rewarding to see it in the flesh, and it's great to see that reaction. When we did our pop-up across the street from Pete's in Ybor, my favorite reaction, and I won't say the F word because then it'll get bleeped out, but my favorite reaction is just like, where the hell did that come from?
Yeah.
Because we literally dropped it in, and it was like the next morning a guy's walking his dog across the street, and he's just like, there's a building here now.
And our tenants moved in immediately.
Yeah.
I think it took them two hours to move in because, the build out is there. You're just bringing your FF&E in, and you're open for business. You're able to start making money. But I think I want to go back to the process, which you shortened a little bit. When we moved back here from New York to do this thing, we knew that David can build anything, and he does build anything, but he kind of left behind a job in commercial brokerage, so he was in New York, like putting a suit on every day, like going to the office, talking to clients, selling real estate. And then we got back here and he took the suit off and put, a t-shirt and some linen shorts on, and all through COVID was building this prototype.
Wow.
We got the steel frame from the fabricator. They dropped it off at our warehouse, which is on the current Gasworks site, our old warehouse, and you just started putting it together like by yourself, with me helping
Kind of
some.
the
But like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Hold this wrench for me real quick.
Yeah, pretty much. What's a wrench? Okay.
kind of the crazy wizard in a cave for a long time.
Yeah.
Just kind
Yeah.
of like one step forward, 3 steps back, and keep going. And I think we nailed it. I mean, it's like, I'm very proud. I'm hard to please, but I'm very proud of how it came out.
Do you have a history of welding or fabrication?
My dad taught me a lot. So
Wow.
I like, if you're stuck on a deserted island, I'm your guy. Like,
for
it's,
sure.
yeah.
The apocalypse, I'm with him.
Yeah.
So what kind of
100%.
materials did you start with, and how did the shape of this thing evolve?
So Stephanie and I built 2 structures in Ybor, one in 2015 and one in 2018. So tiny houses, basically. One was 365 square feet and one is 665 square feet. And
Give
that
those addresses to David, because those are those little shotgun homes y'all did.
Yeah.
Super cool.
1500 North 15th Street. So through that process, that was kind of like we still had that itch of micro retail, but we also didn't like New York winters. So we were
Yeah.
just like, let's do something. We had some land in Ybor, And that process of building those tiny houses really directly informed the tiny
For
shop.
sure. It looks totally different on the outside, but the inside, like the type of construction is actually very similar. So yep, those are them.
So freaking cute. Look at
They're
these
they're
things.
super narrow. They've got high ceilings. You know, it's all of the lessons that we learned on these we took and applied to Nimble.
Is 1502 two stories?
It is. So
Wow.
1500 has a little loft upstairs, which when we were living in it to build 1502, the loft was our office. So you can get up there, you can get work done, an office slash closet. And then 1502 has a whole full second floor with 2 bedrooms. So yeah, these
How many
were
square feet are these?
365 is the little one, and 665 is the larger one.
Now, what was the process like with these? I mean, these were new construction
These are new
developments, right?
construction, yeah.
So were these already entitled to sort of look and be this way, this small?
Well, luckily, Ebor's zoning is very flexible. There's no minimum dwelling size, there's no minimum lot size, and there's 0 lot lines. So, really, the only thing that we had to do was make the bathroom a certain size. That was kind of like the only minimum that we had to work with. Now, I will say that neighbors were very concerned when we started, even when we were at the Barrio hearings for the first one. People were just like, "Well, this is too small, and this is going to be, a crack house, and
It
you know,
was
this
it was
it's just
actually
like
even Barrio members, like people
true,
on the commission, kept asking us like, why don't you just build a 2-bedroom house? Like just build a 2-bedroom
like a
house. And
normal
like,
What was
size
your
house."
answer?
we don't need or want a 2-bedroom house. The whole point of this is to have like a small footprint that we can kind of, people used to build lake houses up north. It's like if the place that
Small,
you small where you went for summer. But we were really surprised by this kind of like prejudice against small. Like
yeah,
we're better than this. Build
Huh.
build big, and we're just like we don't need big. We just
yeah,
Was
want.
the
yeah.
fear that like someone that they wouldn't want to live next to would buy this? I mean, where do you think that sort of fear and negativity came from? Because to me, this is Ybor. I mean, this
Right?
is how Ybor started. This is
It's
really a message to the
it's
past.
so Ybor that we've had people stop by and say, "I was born in that house," and we're
Pretty
like,
sure you were, but
"But I'm not going to argue with
I
you."
mean that's my point though. That's interesting that the barrio themselves were sort of at least a few members negative towards it initially. Maybe they love it now
I
that
think
it's
they love it now.
finished.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think they just couldn't wrap their heads around it. It's not even like from the Barrio. It wasn't even negativity. It was just like, why? Why would you do this?
but
And we're
the
just like, why not?
but the scale of that and the materials of that directly informed the tiny shop, the Nimble shop. So
Got
we
it.
we use structural insulated panels, just kind of nerd out on the construction materials. So the structural insulated panels have a metal skin on the outside, foam on the middle, and metal on the inside. And that's a very, very stout box, and it's basically the whole thing is like a hurricane strap. And part of my experience in building was the frustration with like, why are we tying together thousands of sticks? It
Right.
just seems like a waste of time. So
And it's
we
like,
wanted to use
yeah,
SIP panels
oof.
and did it on both actually.
Yeah, yeah, that was a huge learning curve because there's not a lot of residential projects being built with SIPS panels. I think they're usually used around here for like walk-in coolers and things like that.
Right.
But so these were site built. They looked really fascinating going up. They look like giant coolers in the overall shape that they are, and then we just clad them with historic materials.
How did that work with building code? You weren't required to, use block or traditional
It's
materials?
just the same type of design criteria. You just have to show your design calcs, and which these have, and you don't have to use block for everything.
Got it.
But like Stephanie said, the biggest point of departure from the tiny houses to the tiny shop is that these were site built, and so the end goal with the tiny shop and our whole method of doing what we do is going to be built in the factory. And so with that, we are pointing towards really closer to the way that you would assemble a car and less the way that you would assemble a house. It's major components assembled very quickly and delivered very quickly. So that's where we have to go.
Interesting. So there would be sort of an assembly line, a custom order would come in, and how quickly at this point, and then how quickly in the future do you hope to build these things? Where
Well, I think the whole point for us is that there are no custom orders, right? Like we will have a certain
mm,
line, if you will, of options. We have kind of like the basic retail shell. If you want to be a boutique or something like that, we'll have a barbershop option with the plumbing already there, kind of
ah,
like the components already in place. A wine shop component or like a bar or something like that. So it's just kind of putting those components in place so that again, like it's quicker. There's no real customization in the build out, but people are still like you're still coming in there, you're branding it, you're making it your own. You're just not responsible for like trying to figure out like, oh, code says that I need the sink here and I didn't know that. And like now we have to put it in 3/4 of the way through
ah,
construction.
It's only 200 square feet, and there's only really so many ways you can skin that cat. So we've figured out all of the different variables. And the silly way I like to say it is, if I went to Ford and said like, "Hey, I love this car. Can you put the motor in the back?" And
mm,
I only need 3 doors. I don't need 4 doors. Like
right.
they wouldn't do that for you. So we want to be able to let people customize a Nimble shop in a way that makes it feel like theirs, but kind of more the way you would handle a car. Deal it with it on color or perhaps with the interior, some tweaks,
Yeah,
but not radical customization.
right.
And the owner of the business would not own these. They would lease it from you. And so
Correct.
there's this sort of like standard model they can buy. And then on the website, you've got cafe version, boutique, bar, and salon. These first four cover a ton of different businesses,
Oh
obviously.
yeah, so
And
many.
this bar one David has pulled up is super cool. Like, what an efficient use of space. How does it work with like ingress, egress, fire code? And then let's dig into that, right? Like when this idea first came about and you fabricated this first one, we just talked about the challenges sort of with these little tiny homes. What was local government's sort of reaction to this idea? Because it kind of goes against, I mean, what you just said with these codes and everything like that. So what did they say?
It's kind of like all of those scopes had to be discussed, and for ingress, egress, for fire code, for everything. What's working to our advantage is how small we are. 200 square feet gets you into a different realm, so to speak. Doesn't mean that life safety code goes away,
Sure.
but if you're that close to the exit,
No
Ah,
you don't.
matter where you are, you
Yeah,
only need
if you
one
can't
exit.
figure your way out of that box, you've probably got some other
you probably
problems.
should stay home.
Yeah.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
so you just sort of had to go through those different check marks,
We,
right?
we 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 had to go through that process obviously like way in advance, way before we started building anything because we were building it ourselves. We didn't want to start rebuilding things, so we went through the whole design phase with our engineers, with the third party inspectors who are responsible for certifying the shops for the state, for our state
Ah,
program. So all of that review happened on the front end before we
got
even
it.
The
started construction.
the state program you'd see more often in less sexy ways, like a job site trailer, a portable classroom,
Sure.
things like that. That's what that program was set up for in Tallahassee, was to be able to expedite that type of structure. So we're the cuter, nimbler, sexier version of some of those other things.
Right. So the conversation wasn't necessarily with the local government. It was these experts and engineers you had already had relationships with, and they know the code just as is maybe even better than some of the city employees, oftentimes because they've been around a
Probably.
long time.
It's that, and the concept of a lot of jurisdictions are used to hearing plans on file. So if you have a plan that has been certified,
30
thir-
times, yeah.
30 times, then they're just like, okay, as long as you build it to that, this is considered plans on file, and we'll just kind of rinse repeat.
And so the whole goal on that side of it is having this almost like proprietary set of specs that have been approved and around various areas of the city and as a whole through the building code. And then in the future, hey, I've got a parking lot in X neighborhood. I want one of these. And boom, the city knows what's up. You build it, you deliver it, and the whole thing is, and the tenant moves in and you're rocking and rolling.
That's it.
And
100%.
and where are you at now in the business? We talked earlier about the first one across from Pete's. That one's no longer there. What other locations do you have and hope to bring to the city?
So the good news is we have significant amount of demand. We basically just keep all of the inquiries in our files. Our challenge is supply. We have to basically build the company to put these shops out at a much grander scale.
So right now, we actually have leases with two different landlords for two different sites. The first lease that we signed was on 7th Avenue in Ybor on the Tropicana site. Um, that was that landlord approaching us and saying, hey, like we want to do this. They were familiar with our concept. So he kind of came to us, and our responsibility obviously first was to get that barrio approved. And the barrio had some interesting feedback. So where we landed, we are barrio approved for that site, but they were very concerned with the scale of the project. So we are bound to place two shops, and we only have one shop at this moment. So it's going to be a little bit of a process to get that second shop built. So in the meantime, while we are messing with that, we were approached by SPP, the developers of Water Street, and they wanted a shop.
Fantastic.
So that single shop, the shop that we have now in-house, is going to Water Street very soon. We're working out some issues with the floodplain there, but that will actually be the one that happens first. So funny enough, even though we live in Ybor, we built the shop in Ybor, we love Ybor, we built the shop for Ybor, the shop is going to Water Street,
All we do is dream
which is
Ybor.
just, the universe gave us this thing, and we said, okay. So the next step is to get that one placed, obviously, and
Yeah.
then we will be, or you're concurrently figuring out production for next shops.
Correct. The prototype did a lot of things right. I'd say 95% of things right. And now it's we're in the digestion phase of like, what do we not want to repeat? And how can we be more nimble in the way that we're delivering these shops? So it's a pretty cool process right now. But again, to really meet what demand is showing us right now, we have to be building these dozens at a time and delivering them dozens at a time. So it's something, it's on a scale that's kind of unfathomable, but it's got to happen.
I mean, I
Wow.
think where the magic in Nimble lies is, like, obviously it's cute as a standalone by itself. I think where it starts to become really powerful is if you look at that parking lot that's on the screen. What if you could ring the whole parking lot with Nimbles and just
Yeah.
quickly transform the whole block? So the parking still exists. It's in the center of the space, whatever. The landlord gets the revenue from parking, but the pedestrian experience is just like elevated very quickly. And that shop, those groups of shops really starts to make it feel like something that's much more pedestrian friendly, that feels more like an urban core, where you just have like really cool concept after really cool concept, and you can pass by all of that, and it feels like you're in an actual downtown with actual retail.
And that serves the developer, because if you think about it, you mentioned incubation of different concepts. If those concepts can come in and kind of gestate and either grow or not grow in those smaller spaces, they're going to move into their other larger spaces.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it's like a win-win. And that's the type of service that a Nimble shop can provide to a developer, again, because they might not know the curation of their retail components, and they might not know the scale of what they want, or a blend of retail versus services. This is allowing them to kind of shuffle the deck, change the course a little bit, but take advantage of something that they already have, like a parking lot.
Well, especially in Ybor City, like David, go back to Ybor on 7th Avenue and zoom out. I mean, Ybor needs help with activation, right?
Ooh,
like
yeah.
Ybor's been sort of one note for the past few decades. It's been a lot of pretty much entertainment. I mean, you have your cigar lounges, but it's a lot of bars, and we do need more shopping in order to make a more diverse little community. And you guys live in Ybor, right? So you've
Yeah.
seen,
We live it every day.
you live it every day. I like the idea because you can be very quick and nimble with how you get in some activation. I mean, a parking lot that might not be developed for 5 or 10 years could have activation within what? Like if like the whole vision would be what sort of a turnaround. And like in 3 to 5 years from now, if I came to you and like, hey, I would like a Nimble shop on my parking lot, like what's the vision? Is it like a 45-day delivery? I mean, how quick could you theoretically get this done? This episode is brought to you by the official remodeler of the TBD podcast, Kohler House Remodeling Company. Built on the belief that every homeowner deserves a premium experience, Kohler House is redefining high-end home remodeling with their commitment to integrity, craftsmanship, and quality communication. Their work speaks for itself, from condos in the towers of Channelside to 100-year-old homes in South Tampa, creating spaces that are both stunning and functional. What sets Kohler House Remodeling Company apart is their dedication to not only transforming homes into beautiful spaces, but to elevating the standard of residential general contracting. From concept to completion, every detail is handled with care, ensuring a process that's as smooth as the results are impressive. To learn more, check out our partner's website at kohlerhouse.net, KOHLERHAUS.net. This episode is sponsored by Chansey Architecture and Interior Design. Rooted in the heart of Ybor City for over 35 years, Walt Chansey and his team are trailblazers in their field. Beyond their work across the United States and the Bahamas, Chansey has shaped some of the most iconic residential and commercial spaces that serve as gateways to Cigar City, including Casa Marti and Casa Gomez. What sets Chansey Design apart is their ability to preserve the soul and character of historic buildings while seamlessly integrating modern design and functionality. They blend tradition with innovation, creating spaces that honor the past while meeting today's needs. Check out their work at www.chanseydesign.com.
The components are as simple as coming to terms on a ground lease,
Yeah.
which can be, we're going to try to standardize that process. We've already made some advances in that regard.
Yeah.
But as long as we have the unit ready to go.
And that's where we want to be, is just to be able to like quickly deploy. You kind of say, all right, you've got this lot, you want to put 3 shops on it. Is it 3 retail shops? Do you want a bar? Do you want a salon? Whatever you want. And what neighborhood is it in? What do you want the outside to look like? Okay, like we pull from our inventory of like, here's the 3 shops that you get, and then we curate the tenants or they curate the tenants. But I think it's very quick. Like,
So
that's
maybe even less than 45 days or 30
Oh, yeah.
days.
I think
Yeah,
it-
Within
I-
a matter of weeks, you could pop one of these up.
The actual installation can happen, not including permitting and entitlements and things like that, but the actual installation is 2-3 days.
Whoa.
yeah, it's super
Whoa.
quick.
And so what's involved in the installation? Because you're delivering the unit, but I'm sure it has to be tied down in some way.
Right. So that depends on the type of shop that's going to be delivered. But if it's a boutique, simple retail, there's no plumbing inside. The way that we set up the shop is that it has basically 2 or 3 different ways to get its power. It can do an overhead with TECO like you see every day. You can do a back feed, which is kind of similar to a generator plug. So with that, the utility connections are very minimal. And that just leaves us basically the tie downs to the ground, which we have, depending on if we're going on a hard surface or a soft surface, different anchors to use. But
They're
that's
basically just
But
giant
in just a few
ground,
days,
ground screws.
kind of no matter how it's installed, wow.
and
It's
and
so
again,
quick.
it's not in the way of future development. If
Yeah.
Daryl Shaw comes to us, in 5 years and be like, "This has been great. I'm going to redevelop this site," we're like, "Good for you. We'll move down the street."
It's kind of the whole point.
Yeah.
It's
And-
just like it's the conversation of highest and best. Okay, we have all of these surface parking lots, and all of those landlords or all of the property owners are waiting for 2 decades.
generations.
Sure.
A
Literally
generation
generations, yeah.
for some magical project to happen, and it'll happen, sure. But like in the meantime, we have this dirt lot. So if Nimble can be the higher and better use, we're like that interim solution. Like we know that we don't want a parking lot, and we're not there. We can't build the skyscraper yet, or
Sure.
whatever it is. Like let Nimble come in and be that interim development that does a whole lot of things for the neighborhood, and we don't have to wait for it.
And so do you have to abide by the same codes you would if you were going to build like a 500 square foot small retail building? Like, do you have to have 3 parking spaces for a retail use? Like, how does that work?
All the zoning requirements we still have to abide by.
Wow.
Fortunately for Ybor City, 7th Avenue is, as long as you're on 7th Avenue, YC1 is like exempt from parking requirements. And I think that's a good thing. Downtown has somewhat similar zoning. So it's going to be a case-by-case basis, but we do have to abide by zoning.
I think it would be really interesting to go inside of neighborhoods in an appropriate way on appropriate streets, but you probably couldn't do that now because of certain codes, right? Like maybe you could,
It
but
depends. It depends
it
on the
depends on the
neighborhood, and it
area.
depends where we're going, because if we're going into something, maybe there's like a little neighborhood strip center with with the parking lot out front, and we take literally one of those parking spots, which is actually the reason that we are sized the way we are. It is a parking lot width structure, our parking space width structure.
Yeah,
Like you
how
go
big
in,
is it? You
you
said
pop it.
you said
8.5 feet wide by about 25 feet deep.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow, it's a parking
It's a
spot.
Here's
parking
the other
space.
game changer. We've had enough conversations with different neighborhoods that we actually think this is going to happen. Rather than the neighbor showing up to city council and all the review hearings to say like, we hate this project, make it go away, those same people are going to show up and say like, this is exactly what we want. We believe that the neighborhoods are going to do some of the work for us because
People want services.
they want
You
services.
want to be able to walk and get a
100%.
loaf of bread or get a coffee or a glass of wine. And there's so many neighborhoods right now that I think have that density. I mean, like the Heights, I think already has some walkable retail. And just to add more, and we're so small, it's never like you're going to have 40 cars at one
Sure.
time that you're trying to park for this thing, of just like a quick in and out, grab the thing that you need, and be on your way.
We were talking to somebody in the Heights and they were talking about, it's enjoyable to take your dog on a dog walk, but it's kind of a dog walk to nowhere.
Right.
Wouldn't it be nice to be able to walk to the park and get a cup of coffee or do something in the park that is
Like any
a
major
ritual?
real city.
Exactly.
One of the things I was noticing in Tampa, I think I mentioned it on an episode like a couple weeks ago. I was at Gadsden Park in South Tampa off McDill. Huge park, massive park. And I was like, damn, I'm thirsty. And I was like, oh wait, like wait a second, where am I gonna go? Like there's like in London or any major city, they have kiosk or these little mini retail places where I could get a candy bar, I can get a lemonade for my son, and the wife wants a Diet Coke, and I'm gonna get a cup of coffee. Cool. Like we don't have to leave the park. I'm like, where could I go? I'd have to get in my car and drive to a gas station on Inner Bay. That's a ridiculous thing. These could be placed inside the park to just serve the people visiting the park. Like because it's so tiny, you don't the business doesn't need to be supported by hundreds of people a day. You can be super dynamic in where these things go. I love the idea of actually installing these inside of a park. Has that conversation been had with the city?
Starting.
Wow.
This is like a kind of Tampa Bay should know that this is happening
Yeah.
because we've been contacted by the city of Daytona Beach.
Wow.
There's different
Tampa
municipalities.
Downtown Partnership.
Tampa Downtown Partnership. There are people who realize they have an asset. It's just not being used well.
Yeah.
So we've started to see small towns across Florida realizing that they need to activate their public parks,
Absolutely.
bring people to there, give them some sort of service and
Yeah, to be
ritual.
able, like you said, to be able to go spend an afternoon somewhere and not have to leave to go get a bottle of water.
Right.
Like, duh.
Duh. At a huge park like that,
Yeah.
which has like miles of trails, if I'm
Yeah.
thirsty, where am I going to go? You know?
We just have this very car-centric society at the moment still, of just like, oh, I'm going to get in my car and go to the gas station.
I like your point too about like, adding this in, let's just say to a park, like what would the negative externalities be? I mean, you're right. It's not like 40 people can use it. You're not talking about a line of cars parking places they shouldn't park. These really are for walking in. They're for patrons that walk. But because you're using parking lots, you're probably assuming too that people may drive and park within that parking lot.
Yeah.
Is when you talk specifically about parks to neighborhoods or to the city or the Tampa Downtown Partnership, is there any reason why they would not want something like this?
I'm thinking.
I haven't.
I mean, there's always like a vandalism component, I
Sure.
guess, and if I think that we've also had discussions between the two of us and with the municipalities as well, and the leasing versus owning these things. So if we are continuing to be the landlords and they're placed in a city park or something like that, whose responsibility is it if something gets vandalized? I think that's a conversation to have, but I don't think that's a reason not to do it.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting at like, oh, it's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah,
Like there's so many good reasons to do this. I do think you're right though about that the landlord tenant relationship, it's city property. Who do you pick to be the tenant, right? Like, I'm
Yeah.
sure that conversation will come up, but
Yeah.
nothing that would stop something like this from going forward.
It
And
makes
and they
sense
already
to me.
have that mechanism, whether it's, the Curtis Dixon Park or something
Right.
like they already have, those different.
It's been done before.
Right.
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 We're not totally reinventing the wheel here. I
They're
don't
probably
think.
just not used to doing it so small. Like I hate to equate it to, you have modular bathroom units that are dropped into a park. How about we put some retail in there
Yeah.
as well?
Right.
That's just as important.
Yeah.
And so we did this write up. When was this? November 19th. This specific slide
forever
right
ago.
here. I know. That's kind of the sad thing about this whole idea is it's very forward thinking and creative. And I think it solves a great problem, which is that barrier to entry. There's so many people that have great ideas, but they don't have the money. They don't have the bandwidth or the time to take on a new business because it takes a lot. This provides a solution to that, but damn, does it take a long time. We wrote this November 19th. Here we are, I mean, basically in June.
Yeah.
A lot of people with capital watching your podcast, so we know that this is going to plant some seeds.
Well, hopefully it does. And so on this slide, first of all, shout out Karen Kress for the laser pointer with the downtown partnership.
Love you,
She
Karen.
gave me this
Yep,
little great
Karen's the
gift.
best.
You talk about a forward-thinking person.
Oh, man, she's amazing.
That I would absolutely assume understands this whole idea.
Totally.
Gets it.
But on the screen here, it describes those 2 units. So this whole 2-unit thing that Barrio is making you do comes back from this time period last fall.
Yeah. And
Wow.
this was when we had just won approval, I believe. So this was our second time at the Barrio. We had I think our first Barrio hearing was in May or June of last year. It's probably about a year ago. And despite getting a good report from the Barrio before we went to the hearing, it was pretty clear that no one could really wrap their heads around the size. I think there's a lot of anxiety about the small scale stuff right now. I think there's a lot of worry about, like, Ybor doesn't allow food trucks. And I think for some people, they look at this and
Which
they
is
say,
dumb. So dumb.
I think they're like, oh, this is too close to a food truck size wise. What if we say yes to this, what else are we going to have to say yes to? So there's like they're very protective. So, the magic number ended up being 2, and that's fine. It's a different scale, and we wanted, and eventually we want 8 of them on there. We
Right.
want the parking lot to go away and then have Nimbles until something else gets developed there.
I've heard that a couple times, the what if. I just laugh every time I hear it, whether it's on city council or Barrio variance review, or it's like, well, if we approve this, what if blah, blah, blah. And it's like, what if nothing, man? Like, I don't know.
What
What
we
if you
cross
get
that
parking
bridge-
lots
We're
on
trying to
7th Avenue for the next 30 years?
We're trying
Yeah.
to freaking rebuild our city here,
Yeah.
and you're talking about what if. Now, what's the good reason why you couldn't have a food truck in Ybor City? I
Do
mean,
you know what the history is? there?
Well,
I actually
okay,
don't
not
know.
what, not the good reason. What is the reason? I guess.
It's a firewall that I've never actually seen. I've heard it's codified somewhere. I think it comes under vendors, and it is.
It's real.
I think it's old school. If you think about it, Ybor gatekeepers were probably like, no, food trucks are going to
They're gonna
compete with our
compete.
restaurants.
Yeah.
Right.
When in fact, the opposite is true. Like if you look
Yeah, look at Water
Austin-
Street. Look
Austin,
how many.
Texas.
That also.
Well,
I'm
it
just
just-
thinking
Los
about
Angeles.
It brings more people to the area looking
For
for
sure.
food services, period.
Yeah.
More daytime use is like, as residents of Ybor, please,
Please.
like we want all of it.
Yeah.
And I want all of the daytime retail. I want things that I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine it right now. Of just all the things that Ybor could and I think will be
Yeah.
eventually.
You say this all the time, how selfish we want to be in terms of curating what we want. There's always room for some new concept, whether it's a
I really want a good banh mi in Ybor.
yeah.
Yeah.
I want a really good tiki bar.
Right.
I want supernatural donuts in Ybor.
All the above.
Love you, Wesley.
And see, well, with this idea, you could get someone like that to commit again with a lower barrier to entry. If they had to sign a larger lease in a structure, it's a completely different conversation for them from a business perspective.
coming back to like the developers' needs, we're so bullish on this that we think in the future there will be like a little holdout pad, so to speak, an area for a nimble type shop. And actually, we've had some conversations with Daryl Shaw about that. It's just we're trying to work out the fine details. But again, the more flexibility the developer has, the better it is for all of us because we don't get stuck with this vacant 3,000 square foot retail space that no one
For
wants.
2 years.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if there's anyone listening that owns property, whether it's a parking lot or other, like how does the business structure work if they were to come to you? Hey, I own a parking lot. I get like 3 cars a day. It's not really providing a lot of money.
It's a conversation.
Yeah.
What are their motivations for Daryl? I don't think it was so much like I need you to match my revenue for these parking
Sure.
spots. It was more of a
He,
concept or
he
a
knows that a
passion.
parking lot on 7th Avenue is ridiculous.
It's more about
It's
activation
the
for him.
activation.
So he
And
doesn't
it's
want
the
to lose.
patterns of activation, right? Because like for SPP and Water Street, like they're trying to activate new spots that they have not started construction on yet, but like you can start to inform people's thought patterns of just like, oh, I can go over here now and there's something there so that then when that next phase of developments gets built, people already have their walking patterns of like, oh, I can, it's not like something new just like sprouted out of
That is an
nowhere.
interesting thought. Bring the people before the buildings.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then when
Wayfinding.
they go to develop that site or any site in particular, you've got that traffic that's used
Yep.
to enjoying whatever, the boutique, the bar, the cafe.
There's another really interesting effect that happens too, and it's like we've been talking to people who own properties in kind of near Rome or South Tampa, where you have an existing retail or commercial property and you have this kind of vacant parcel next to it. If you start putting micro retail next to it, the rent appreciation is actually going to push over to your other properties. It's like spillover in a positive way.
Yeah, where do I want to live if I'm a tenant? I kind of want to live next to one of these where I can go grab a little coffee in the
Yeah.
morning.
But on the commercial front as well, like if you have another commercial office or storefront, it tends to appreciate that rent.
Yeah, you're not an island all by yourself of retail anymore. You now have retail neighbors, which I mean, as we just talked about, it just does better things. Like
Yeah.
the more
Yeah.
the merrier. But to go back, I think to the question that you asked about property owners and the conversation that happens there, what we've developed is a little bit. Would you call it a property stack?
Yeah.
I'll let you talk about that.
It's super simple. I mean, it's basically a ground lease. So the terms are relative to, again, what the motivation is of the landowner. Ideally, we would like to have somewhere between 5 and 10 years of a ground lease, but we would do shorter
Sure.
for really attractive markets. And the reason why it's 5 to 10 years is that it depends on how much underground infrastructure we have to put in. If it is going to have plumbing and it is going to have bathrooms, that's a different number. And we need more time to be able to amortize that cost. But if it's short term and we don't have to do a lot of underground work, then we can do a shorter ground lease. And with that ground lease reflects to the tenant lease, which is, we would like to have 2 years because I think if you're serious about opening a business,
Right.
if you're not going to be in it for 2 years, then you're probably shouldn't do it.
Right.
But so you have the lease of the tenant, and then you have the Nimble shop, and then you have the ground lease at the bottom, and that's pretty much it.
So there are certain parameters that you need on your side, but it is flexible, so to speak. Someone could come to you with an idea and you'd be willing to, all right, well, let's, try to work this thing out.
And we
Yeah.
haven't had this situation come up, but it will come up that we will build into our lease, our ground lease as a termination option. So if, developer X has all intentions to have our Nimble shop there for 5 to 10 years, but 4 years down the road, something gets offered to them they can't refuse, and they actually are going to build that high rise, we'll move. We don't want to
Right.
be in the way. We just need to recoup some of that cost that we put
Sure.
underground.
For
So there's
sure.
going to be some sort of termination fee or something like that. But
That makes sense. Yeah. Back to 7th Avenue. So you go to the barrio with this idea. Initially, it was 1 unit. They said, we talked about some of those fears, and they're making you do 2 units before you can basically start this thing off. I think you mentioned before we jumped on here that you do have one tenant who's ready to roll. You're not quite there on the other one yet, but it sounds like you have a list of people interested in these things. So that'll get figured out. What's the timing here? I mean, before we could see these on 7th Avenue?
It's a great question. And that kind of comes back to capital and bandwidth. So, like Stephanie said, concurrent with what we're doing now in terms of everything else, we're trying to work on the prototype and get that ready for the next 4 units.
Version 2.
Yeah, version 2. And so
Model
we're
B.
still in that process. I'd like to say that we'll be delivering units in 2025, but I don't think it's likely. I think we're looking at 2026 delivery.
Sure. Has there been a conversation with, does the city of Tampa have, I know they have, some sort of like a small business department? Because to me, like, if the government is interested in helping out small businesses, this is the perfect partnership in some way. Have they talked to you guys like, wow, this is so cool? Like, how can we sort of facilitate this and help you out?
We have had discussions with them, and
Sounds like soft, maybe. Like
Yeah,
not,
I
nothing.
think their interest is there, but you know,
What is
we,
it?
we
How
don't
does it
fit into a
work?
lot of check boxes. Like
Yeah.
yeah,
when
we're not
we
like a good or service. We're not like all of the things that you get if you start selling internationally is very strange. Like,
Oh.
SBA has really strange like all
if
you have to
can
do is sell 1 unit, like export 1 unit,
and
and
then
You
suddenly you
don't
have all this
qualify.
capital.
Oh.
no, it's a
like
game changer.
it's
Oh,
like they're
in
which
the
is so
other
strange to
direction.
me.
The
Yeah.
government basically guarantees like 90% of your debt, it's something insane. So I don't know why it's set up that way, but apparently it's set up that way.
Dang.
So not directly answering your question in terms of the city and small businesses, but part of Nimble, we realize like all of the ways that we don't fit into people's boxes. So if you go to a bank, they're just like, I'm sorry, you're what? If you go to get insurance,
Oh.
are you a permanent building? Are you not permanent building? And you kind of get in the conversation of like, well, what do you want it to be? So this is very innovative, and with innovation, it's hard for a lot of different buckets to digest what you're doing.
There are slow steps forward every day.
Yeah.
But I think we didn't have any. We've had conversations with the city, like real concrete conversations. It didn't really seem like anything was there. It's not like they just had like a bucket of capital. Or like, oh, well,
Sure.
here's this low interest loan that you can take out. Like there was nothing like.
It's almost like a conduit to the SBA.
Yeah.
Kind of.
And we've talked to the SBA. I don't know what will happen with that either. I think there are so many things we need to be doing right now.
Well, this brings up the greater conversation of just anything creative. I think we talked about like St. Pete Box, who builds shipping containers, right? I think those municipalities he's worked in have had some of the same questions where it's like, wait a second, how do we classify this? How do we fit you into the box we already have? Do we need to create a new box, et cetera? But it also brings up different things like the pickleball, right? The pickleball warehouse, like that kind of didn't fit into a box initially, and that I know that was sort of a heavy lift on the business and landlord side of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it brings up a greater conversation of this is going to keep happening as technology improves and as the internet advances, and you guys can find out different things from across the world immediately, and other businesses come here to Tampa and to the whole Tampa Bay area. Governments are going to have to sort of like unwind the thread and take a step back from the code. That's the last thing the government wants to do, because it's always like a life safety thing, right? That's what they're worried about. But at some level, they're going to have to get creative and find a way to fit cool things like this and other things we can't even think of right now. And and it's always, obviously, when we go down the road for a few years and they can fit you in that box, it becomes easier. I'm sure you anticipated when you had the idea, like, because you're a commercial real estate guy, you probably thought, well, how is this going to fit in from that, code perspective?
We know the code, both have an architecture and development background as well as commercial real estate. So we knew that we could figure it out.
Yeah.
And we know that the city of Tampa will eventually figure it out with us.
Sure.
And we want to figure it out in Tampa. I'm a Tampa native. If we can't do it efficiently, someone else is going to figure, some other city is going to figure it out. So, our focus is in Tampa, but we know that the demand is outside of Tampa as well, St. Pete and the greater Tampa Bay area. So
Everywhere.
I want you guys here, though. We
I
got to
know,
have
same.
some fun here.
We wanna be here.
What was the other municipality you mentioned on the other coast of Florida?
City of Daytona Beach.
Daytona
actually.
Beach.
Yeah.
And can you reveal anything there? I mean, what have they said?
They are very excited. I think they picked it up on some,
I
might
don't
have
even
been,
remember.
Social media, maybe?
it was
Yeah.
some other press. It was one of their economic development managers picked it up. And so
Wow.
they're actually waiting for us to get the shop placed at
At Water
Water Street
Street.
so that they can come over and like,
And
they're
check it
bringing their
out.
whole department over to look at
Whoa.
this thing.
Yeah,
So
So this municipality is super
they're
committed
on
to
it.
like, whoa, this is
They're on
amazing.
it.
Let's go see this thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Wow. That's
let's
interesting.
figure this out, Tampa.
Let's figure this out. The park idea to me is one of the most exciting because you
I
have
love
a
it.
clear need that you're probably not going to be able to figure out in a concrete way. Like it's going to cost a fortune for the city to build a facility and
And that's not their strong suit,
infrastructure.
you know?
No.
Like they're not developers. Like let the city do what the city does well, and then we go,
Yeah.
figure out that part.
And by adding to 400, 600 square feet of retail, that doesn't change the parking component for a giant park.
No.
And it's just it's
Hopefully.
value add.
Well, and I mean, I'm thinking, and I know you probably were thinking of parking spaces, but I'm thinking like on the interior of the
Yeah,
park, like
yeah.
they're on a walking path.
Fine.
You know?
We take the Riverwalk often,
Yeah.
and it's like once you start looking for places where Nimble can go,
Yeah.
we can't stop. Like it's just everywhere, just like Nimble there.
Well, what
Nimble
are
there,
the
Nimble
constraints?
there.
I mean, are the only constraints like what do you need? You probably need like a flatbed truck to bring this thing in.
We need some access.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even the prototype comes in on the F-250.
Yeah.
Whoa.
The prototype is like its own trailer. So,
So you don't even need like a large flatbed truck to get these things in. It can come in on just an F-250.
F-250.
Whoa. So there must be light, like relatively light.
They're about 10,000 pounds, but an F-250 is a robust machine. But like Stephanie said, like we have the bug. We have like everywhere we look, we're just like Nimble Shop, Nimble Shop, Nimble Shop, and hopefully other people will get that bug as well.
Yeah.
And again, going back to people's public parks, tons of capacity in there. Why not come together on some sort of little retail focus, little event that kind of be your morning ritual?
I mean, if I want a Gatorade and I'm walking on the Riverwalk, I'm like, where do I go right now? Like, where do I go?
Yeah.
Like, actually, where would I go? I mean,
don't
would
know.
I
There's
would
the
I
little
stop at the
whatever
Marriott
pop-
or something?
The whatever Pops kiosk in Curtis Hickson, which is never open. Is
Ah,
the
yeah,
only
where the
thing I can
bathroom
think
is,
of where the
right?
bathroom is.
There's a little park that we've had our eye on for a while that's underneath the expressway. So both
On the river. Yeah.
on the river,
Yeah.
right next to it's like a water pump station or something
Yeah.
like that. I
It's,
forget
it's
the
all
name
those
of the
little
park.
slivers.
Where the USF Park where the bull
Just-
is.
just north of that.
Got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, duh. What about Bayshore Boulevard?
100%.
Where am I going to go get
Yeah.
a Gatorade on Bayshore?
Yeah.
You know?
It's
And
just,
and this is not like obtrusive to a view. It doesn't take up a lot of space. It's not like putting one of these somewhere on Bayshore would be like, oh, well, then now what? It's totally
Food
disruptive
trucks
the
are
view.
next.
Right. Well, that's the fear. And a food truck is less of a commitment. And in my head, it definitely is more negative than a Nimble Shop in my
Sure.
head. Like when I see a food truck, it's a food truck.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
trailer. It's got
Yeah.
wheels.
yeah.
This Nimble Shop is more concrete and more
becomes part of the
dedicated.
place.
It becomes part of the place.
It
Right.
becomes part of the neighborhood. I think that's one of the really fun things. And it's just like for us as architects, like it's the positive space of the Nimble Shop, but it's also the negative space that's created around it of just like, well, what can I do without the outside space now that's around it, and how to like activate the exterior space as well so that it becomes really an extension.
And if Bayshore doesn't want it, then we won't go there. Again, there's so many
Sure.
neighborhoods in Tampa that are
I
just.
think it makes sense for Bayshore.
I do
Yeah.
too.
100%.
But I think it's going to be the neighborhoods that come to us that are going to come to any type of hearing and say, like, we want this in our neighborhood.
And the property owners that are really entrenched in their neighborhoods that like understand that this is what my neighbors want. They need these services. They don't exist right now, and I can help them get it very quickly.
How aggressive can you get with the architecture? Meaning, in Ybor, can you do like a thin brick veneer, but then on Bayshore, do something more that sort of fits in with that look?
Yeah.
We can definitely pivot to whatever the architectural appropriateness is for the area. If
Wow.
something needs to be I don't necessarily think we need to do like shiplap or things like that, but we
You
could.
could,
You
you
could.
Yeah.
could,
Yeah.
you could, and like we both are fans of more modern architecture than the shop really presents. But we built again, we designed that shop for Ybor. So for us, it's just like, well, I want a super modern little jewel box with like the window wrapping the corner
Yeah.
and like doors on two sides, and like the possibilities are endless, I think, and that's one of the benefits to building them ourselves versus just getting some shipping containers, which are great options, but
And
this
work too,
allows
right?
us.
Like I
Yeah.
think Sparkman Wharf has
Oh my God.
almost proven what we've talked about with like Sparkman Wharf is like a little restaurant concept
For sure.
incubator.
For sure.
Look at all the brands that started there that now have multiple
Yeah,
locations.
Absolutely.
it's so cool. It's so cool to see. I mean, they've got something really special there. But
It's a win for the developer and it's a win for all the concepts.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's especially for the developer because it's like, hey, this is a temporary thing to activate my site while I'm getting my plans together, and then
Yeah.
in a few years we can move it
do something
elsewhere.
else.
And can we pull back up 7th Avenue though? Because I'd like to talk about the actual like site, right? I noticed there's like some planters and benches where people could sit. Is this sort of finalized this plan, or has it shifted since then? David, pull back up that Instagram post. This one here. So
Yeah.
you've got these two Nimble Retails side by side, and surrounding it, it looks like you have like benches and seating for stuff like that.
Like Stephanie said, it's as much of the space in between as it is the space inside. And so we again, living in Ybor off and on since 2000, you kind of come across these relics, these little found objects. And so I think when I was younger, I always looked at the La Tropicana architecture as just kind of like, kind of old man architecture, but it's actually kind of cool too. So we encountered this, the fence, and we kind of were curious about it, and we didn't want to just, immediately like tear it down. And then there's also some circa 1990s murals.
Oh,
on the side of Demi's.
Yeah.
see
That
if
are
you can
in
put
bad
that
shape.
Google Earth little man down there if we can see those.
But they're really cool, and so I think it's a little bit of a found object concept. Like you've got the gate or the fence between the sidewalk. Yeah, that like we want to keep part of that because I
Yeah.
think it starts to get really interesting when you have these little interstitial spaces. So it's almost like a little secret garden. Like you can see in there, but you're gonna really want to like
Right.
wander in. And so how do you make the exterior or the outside space like something that pulls people in just as much as the building itself? I think is really fun, and you start to build that out.
Which is another huge separator from a food truck. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
this is
By
so much
design.
more of a dedicated space surrounding the retail.
And that was part of our conversation with the Barrio Commission was just because you have a sidewalk on 7th Avenue doesn't mean that you still need to like have a little off-ramp experience. Like have a little special secret garden where
Yeah.
you're just taking a break off of 7th Avenue because,
Like I want to drink a glass of wine in there, protected obviously visually and temperature-wise from the parking lot itself. Like if you have a barrier up so that it feels like its own dedicated space, that space between the Nimble shop and Demi's Market to the west, like starts to become really special, and it starts to feel like this really nice outdoor space that's got plants, and it's got shade, and is like somewhere that you actually want to go hang out, because there's not a lot of off sidewalk exterior space on 7th Avenue, really.
Right.
Like Gaspar's has their patios, and
Which is
that's-
awesome. I mean, that's
Yeah,
like for
yeah.
what it is, right? The karaoke and the
For sure.
hangout and the bar
and all of the other adjacent neighbors that we know, whether it's Blind Tiger, Acropolis, or Barrio Tacos, like
Carmine's, yeah.
Carmine's, like everyone's excited about this. It's not like
there's not a competition aspect. Like, oh, you're
No,
taking away
no,
customers.
it's
or,
kind of a rising tide raises all ships.
Yeah.
It's
I'm glad they see it that
excitement,
way.
yeah.
Yeah, you're also serving a totally different customer, in my opinion, too. I actually think it's complimentary. I think you could go have a glass of wine at the little Nimble site and then go to dinner at Acropolis.
sure.
Right?
100%.
Yeah.
And that's the whole idea.
Yeah, like to be able to spend more than a couple hours on 7th Avenue is
Yeah.
like where we want to get people of just like, oh,
Ybor
is
sucks you in.
this
It's never been a
Ybor?
one-trick pony. It's always the like, I'm just gonna go get a glass of wine, and then the next thing you know, 4 hours later.
It's so
I've seen
true.
this in my husband many times.
Where is he? Oh, I'll just go to 7th Avenue and walk
Yeah,
around and
he's
find
at the
him there
castle.
eventually.
That's where
Yeah.
David is.
An institution, the
Love
castle.
it.
Another.
Love
I
it.
need to talk to that owner. That would be a hell of
Oh,
an episode
We
right
can
there.
get
you
to him.
should talk. You should talk to Alan.
So David, pull back up the Instagram. Let's look at the actual site. I think I have a rendering of what this could look like. Yeah, right here. And this is sort of
This is like our cartoony version of just like
cartoony
something,
version,
you know,
not finalized at all.
totally not finalized. Honestly, I want like way more green, way more I don't know, stuff to
Yeah.
look at and enjoy. But this is just kind of like we get our foot in the door with the barrio, and then when we have time, we can create something special, and we can create it with the tenants.
And then on that, I guess that would be the east side. You've got a mural.
Yeah.
And so the idea is have some sort of like a community art piece that might speak to the history of La Tropicana. Like that would be
100%.
interesting.
I think
Something
that'd be
like
so
that,
fun.
right?
Yeah.
Ybor is starving for murals, and again, not to equate it to food trucks. There's also a bit of resistance. Yeah, there's a stigma with murals in Ybor, and I don't understand it. So we see an opportunity there to either restore or bring back or do a new mural on that wall because the precedent's there.
Well, on the existing Denny's
Yeah.
wall, but then I think also something on the shop.
The
would be
new
real
one.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. Like, I wouldn't want a bunch of neon colors all over these old historic brick buildings.
Sure.
I don't
Sure.
know that anyone would want that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Like, public art is great for any neighborhood.
and let it be barrio approved.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I mean, it is starting to happen. Like the old YCDC building has the mural now, and they just Pepperelli just completed the lightning mural in Centro. So
Lightning mural in Centro.
like the light, like the sports team lightning.
No, I know, but where is it?
I don't.
I honestly, I think it's on the backside. I think it's on 8th Avenue.
Okay.
I've only seen
have to
like
check that
up
out.
close photos. They just completed it a couple weeks ago.
Interesting.
Pep rally's busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Right. I feel like they're everywhere.
Yeah,
You know,
good
another
for
thing
them.
too is
That's awesome.
they could activate. Where are we? This thing's all turned around. North, south. Zoom out a little bit. So when Daryl was on the show, he actually described the Columbia as the center of Ybor City. I thought that
Oh,
was
that's
sort of a
fascinating. I haven't
fascinating
heard that
thing to
part yet.
say. And when you look at this map with the Columbia in the center, zoom in a little bit more, David. Look at the density on the left side, which is the west side,
Yeah.
and look how much is missing on the east. And so when he said that, I'm like, man, he's right. So for me, Nimble, that's how you could start to get activation on that east side.
For sure.
And I think the city a while back actually had planned for that because the way they built the infrastructure with the wide sidewalk and the palm trees and the lights
Yep.
went way further down than
26th.
26th Street.
Yeah.
Close to 26th. Yeah.
So you think about, how do you accelerate what might be inevitable, in terms of like development of Ybor City? It's like, well, you can get these things activated
Yep.
very quickly. So to me, that's what this could be used for too, is like, what's an underdeveloped area of the city that needs a little bit of a stronger push, but is not ready for full scale development, which takes a completely different set of like risk seeking and bet making. And it's a commitment to do these large developments. And
For sure.
the developers aren't going to do it in an area where it doesn't make sense, And so East Ybor, like that is that area.
Exactly what you're talking about. So we're marching in that direction, but closer to 24th and 26th, it's almost adorably set up for what you're talking about
Yeah.
because the sidewalks are there, the benches are there,
Right.
the oak trees are there.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
everything is there waiting. Yeah,
Waiting
you're
for-
almost
for
there.
us.
Almost there on the left, right there.
And what's also, I think, really exciting about the east part of 7th is that the residential base is much stronger here than it is further west in Ybor. Like my mom lives right around the corner from this.
Does she
and
really?
she has to. Well, she's not. She gets in her car and goes to the west side of 7th.
Right.
Whereas if she could just walk a block south and go, get whatever she needs, like how cool is that? I think there's so much going on on the east of 22nd that it's gonna
Huge
explode
potential.
soon.
Zoom out. Where are you, David? Is this 22nd? This is
No,
further
it's
than
Probably
that.
further.
26.
7.
Yeah, I think
Think about
Oh,
how
yeah, it's the
quick it could be
CrossFit.
too. If you start to put a
24th.
little package, let's say on this little site right here, if you had 6, Nimble shops with a common area in
Yeah.
the middle and all that. I mean, within like 24 months, you might see a real development come in the area because of Nimble.
and it complements what the neighborhood wants, going back to the neighborhoods. So if you think about it, there's a lot of artists that still live in East Ybor.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to have like the little community art gallery,
Yeah.
sounds crazy to have it be 200 square feet, but why not?
Why
What
not?
have the arts really come back alive in Ybor City and have it, Nimble Shop is kind of like, it's just the platform to make it happen.
And I
So
think there's so many people who live in East Ybor who have their families have lived there for generations, and so they've seen the cycle of like there was stuff on Seventh, and then the blight, urban renewal and blight, and so to be able to provide those folks with services that are in walking distance again, that are not, West Seventh Avenue is great. It caters a little bit more to like the tourists of Tampa, which is cool, and we need that. But like
for sure.
East Seventh could be more
And
localized.
East Seventh has a little bit of that next to like Al's Soul Food. There's like a little barber shop, and so
Yeah.
it just needs, it could use more of that small
Yeah.
neighborhood feel.
There's actually a lot to come too. I think if you look at the residential development, there's, like you said, there's actually more. Well, you said that there's more living on the east side now than the west side, but I also think there's actually more coming on the east side too. I mean, if you look at,
'Cause there's
is
the
it
space to
site
do it.
development? Who's
Yeah.
doing that townhome?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not townhomes. I think it's single family. Are you
They've got
familiar?
both, like the
both?
ones right on 22nd.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some townhouses in those projects.
And then zoom
Small
out,
scale,
David.
but yeah.
I saw another approval on up here.
Ooh.
And we haven't talked about that on the show yet. I think it has I don't want to misspeak. You could try to look it up, David. I know the developer. I mean, obviously it's public because they were before council. But yeah, on this side up here, there's a good size project, residential. And so my whole thing is like, well, if you have residential here and then all this development over here, residential, where are these people going to go to get a little coffee or
Yeah.
get a little something?
I mean,
goods
I
and
think
services.
I think the south side of Adamo is gonna pop soon too, like near
Yeah.
IKEA and all of that kind of like warehouse situation.
That parking lot's
Also,
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Ybor is a pedestrian pleasure because it's been mixed use since it was built.
Right.
It's like, it's one of the things that gets us irked being Ybor residents when people refer to Ybor as like the entertainment district. And it's like, it's not an entertainment district. It is a mixed use district. And with that, you get all of these fun little opportunities to be a pedestrian. And so if we continue to be a mixed use district and not just say like, all the houses go over here,
Right.
all the bars go over there, then we're going to have a more vibrant, fun pedestrian environment.
Just like it was intended to be,
For sure.
and just like it was founded as. Yeah, I've always said that what's happening in this city is really a rebuilding of what we once had. And especially the push for transportation, like we talk about all the time, the huge trolley network, the streetcar network we had, and all that was ripped up. And so this push for rail and a streetcar extension and more mixed use, like this isn't anything novel. Like this is actually rebuilding the city.
I think
100%.
we're relearning that the freedom that comes with having a car is like not all it's cracked up to be, right?
And
Like,
guess what? If you still want to use the car,
for
still use
sure,
the
like we're
car.
never gonna get, I don't think we'll get rid of cars altogether, but like the reliance on them is,
But
I feel like is a trap.
Wouldn't it be more freedom if you had multiple choices versus I can
Oh my
only take the
God,
car?
yeah, and all of the expenses that go along
Can
with
I
that.
predict the future?
Let's do it.
That there's not going to
Are you
be
an oracle?
car ownership is going to be kind of passe. I think you're going to have like a car membership, like you're a Ford guy. And some weekends I might want a Ford F-250, and some weeks I want to have a Mustang. Like I think I'm going to have a Ford membership and not own one Ford car.
Take our friend David Deco, for example, right? He lived in Northport, which is extremely suburban. He and his wife have 2 cars. They moved to La Union, Gasworks, right? They're like, wait, why do we have this second car?
Yeah.
Like, how much did that cost you, David? I mean, on average, a month for that second car. It was paid off, though. Just insurance, which is not cheap. But
Yeah.
if you have a car payment, insurance, gas, by the time you add all that up, and then we want to talk about housing affordability, if you can create a scenario where you don't have to have a vehicle, you're saving like $500, $600, $700 a month.
That was
some
always
people
our
800.
argument for living in New York when people would give us, crap. They're just like, oh, it's so
So
expensive.
expensive.
I'm like, well, I don't have any of those expenses. Like, I don't have to pay. There's nothing for a car, and I have, limitless transportation with my $100 a month Metro card. So thank
Right.
you. I'll take
Happy
that.
to pay that price of admission.
Oh,
For sure.
100%.
For sure. And
Yeah,
so,
we talked at the Tampa's downtown state of the was it State of the Market Forum? I forgot like the official name, but it was the Downtown Partnerships event last week on Tuesday, and we were talking about the single use development, and by single use, it's just residential development on the north side of the expressway in downtown Tampa. Aurora, what's the name, David? What's the name of that place? We can probably pull it up in 2 seconds right here. This apartment complex, okay? The
oh,
people
yeah, yeah.
that live there, I've talked to a couple people that know people that live there, and I had a girl that worked for me that lived there too. They have to like Instacart food and Uber Eats food. You know, where are you gonna walk from there to go get a dozen eggs and a gallon of milk? You're gonna go walk all the way to Water Street? Where's the shade in between? Where's
Oof,
the
that's
use in
rough.
between? You're walking 8 blocks of asphalt in the Florida heat.
Ooh.
And so it's like those types of developments, just that multiple 100-unit residential in the middle of an area that's surrounded by nothing, has really no business in the city moving forward. It should be really illegal to build something like that.
Man, that's crazy.
And back to not to give the developer
Granted, they work with the rules they have at the time, and it is what it is.
But time and time again in Channel Side, you'd see a new development happen with no retail in it, and sometimes you would see it with retail in it, and the excuse always is like, well, it keeps failing, or it's vacant,
Yes.
or it's too
Yes,
expensive.
it's sat vacant for 10 years.
Right. So it comes back to Nimble again. Like if you can kind of over time curate that, and back to the wayfinding concept of like bringing people to the site in a way that can evolve with trends, then you're going to be successful, and
Yeah.
you're probably going to eventually put 3,000 square feet of retail there. But just
Yeah.
to plop it there
A little
artificially,
island.
it's not going to thrive.
Like zoom out on this area, David, and show this apartment complex.
I'm actually so sad for
Like,
those residents
look,
right now.
look at where these people live, right? Now they have a huge parking garage. All of these people probably drive everywhere. And,
sure.
of course, they certainly have opportunities to walk within their area. Can you imagine a little coffee shop, Nimble, right here across
Yeah.
the street? Place would be packed.
We've
People
also
would
got
love
the
that.
expressway right next to it.
That's
happy
exactly
happy to
right.
talk with the Expressway Authority.
Shout out Greg Slater.
That'd be
You
great.
pop one under there in the shade.
Yeah,
And now
exactly.
you're really talking.
Yeah.
And the Selman wants to do this entire greenway, right? Almost like this bike pedestrian trail with parks. They've got pickleball in the plans. You could even pull that up, David, but through downtown under the expressway, it's like we've got this awesome shaded huge structure. Why not utilize underneath it? Not
Yeah.
just for
100%.
parking, but for places for people, right?
Our tree
And
canopy
so
is shit, so why not?
Exactly. So for Nimble to be a part of that in the shade as people are enjoying that, like, well, that's a no-brainer to
Yeah.
me, right? Activate that use.
And then that little, what is currently a little weird residential island can become a little bit more like a village, I
Exactly.
think, which is kind of where it seems like a lot of us are trying to get back to. I mean, at least they've got Embark Collective right next door. They can all walk across the street and go to work.
So these
Hopefully.
these courtyard style apartments have been super popular the last like 2 decades. Obviously, they're everywhere. They're in the city, they're in the suburbs. What if you put a little Nimble shop in there by the pool?
Get a helicopter.
Yeah, that's all we have to do is just
Drop
pop
it in.
pop it in there.
Drop-
Do you think they'll get to a point where they could be set up in more remote or creative locations like that, if they could come as like an IKEA kit, so to speak, where you could put them together on site?
I think flat packing is a possibility. It's just to resist hurricane strengths and the movement of it as well. They kind of want to be built off site in a factory. But that still doesn't mean that we can't go to remote sites, because again, whether we're powering ourselves off of solar or some other, alternative means of energy, we can do that.
I mean, even to go back to your park concept, if you want to pop one in the middle of a big park, if you're on solar and all you need is power, you don't have to connect to anything. You don't have to run lines of like power lines all the way out there. And Tampa has plenty of sun.
What type of use could you get in a situation like that where you couldn't necessarily connect to the water and the sewer and the power? I mean, do you have the capability to exclusively power like a little coffee shop with solar in one of these?
The technology is there. I think it's just a matter of cost. It's because, people are doing it with RVs.
Right.
There's, that's been proven. So the technology is there. The good thing about Tampa is that I don't think there's been a site anywhere in the city that we've had difficulty trying to get power to. I mean, Tico will drop you a pole and a line just about anywhere. So it's, very, very convenient. Not always painless and not always
Sure.
fast, but they'll get it done.
And not always pretty.
Not always pretty.
I know.
Here's your giant
Here's your
pole.
giant
But all,
pole.
all
Yeah.
kidding aside, the amp requirements of a Nimble shop are so low that you could probably pull off of an existing security light, like a street light. It's not a lot of
Ah.
it's not a lot of power pull.
Is that typically what you look at when you go to put these in? Is like, well, where is the infrastructure?
We
and how
we
could
look at the infrastructure. We definitely have the eyes to be able to go to a site very quickly and be like, where are the meter boxes?
Yeah.
Where's the clean outs? Where's the water? Where's the sewer? But for something like just a retail use, getting an overhead power line has been pretty easy.
It almost sounds like it could go anywhere. Like where can't something like this go? I mean, you've said that they can go in a flood zone, they can go in a parking lot, they could go in a park in dirt. The supportive structure can be flexible. They could be powered off solar. Like where can't something like this go?
We've even had jokes about putting them on pontoons and like
Oh my gosh!
floating
A
them to
little
an island.
up.
Yeah.
I want a little pontoon sauna.
You sell like beer and popsicles from a pontoon Nimble shop? That would be so popular.
I can retire.
Or what about like Beer Can Island?
Oh,
Pop
man.
one of those
You
things
read
out
my
there.
mind.
That's where your mind went.
Yeah.
Of course
That's
it is.
possible though,
Anything's
right?
possible. Anything's possible.
Yep.
I love the dynamic nature of these. So in this process, we've got one going in Water Street, working on 7th Avenue, and then it sounds like you're also building the capability of the factory to meet some of the demand you've got.
For sure.
Have you been surprised at the inquiries? Because it sounds like you're getting demand on both sides. Like the landlords are calling you, but then also businesses are calling you too.
Yeah.
We've been very surprised through some of our local contacts.
Are you really surprised? I feel like we knew.
We're getting calls from Boston,
Whoa.
Miami. Like
Yeah.
it's definitely reached further than I thought it
Further
would.
flung. Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be nation. I mean, it's really its only limiting factor is how far you can go and still manage the property, if you think about it, because you have
If you are managing the property.
you are
because
managing
if you
the
sell them
property.
to some Boston developer and they want to buy them,
Sure.
only want to buy 20 of them, okay.
So that's
Fine,
on the
go.
table too, where someone could come to you and purchase these.
The right user.
Sure.
So I think, an astute developer who knows how to curate tenants, who knows what they're doing, or even a city who kind of like understands. I don't think that we're necessarily super interested in selling to individuals or just like kind of like smaller landlords, because we really understand what goes into placing these
Yeah.
and like how to jump through the hoops. And the last thing I want to do is have somebody spend X amount of money on one of these and then be like, I'm gonna go put it in this place, and then
Right.
no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to setting up the tenant for success.
Yeah.
Like we know what kind of trap that they could fall into. So by selling them something for a pretty big penny and having it end up in their backyards, that doesn't work for us. That's not a success story.
It's amazing that there's different, places all the way up to Boston calling you. I think that's fascinating, but it also surprises me that Boston wouldn't have something like this already.
They
and
actually,
I'm sure they do.
They do have a similar. What's the women's village? It's
And Seaport.
Yeah, Seaport.
Yeah, but those are
Village.
just shipping containers.
Yeah. But yeah, there are other concepts, usually shipping container based. But yeah, we're not finding this concept a lot.
From everything you've seen, including like the shipping containers, right, and these different ideas, I think, and then you've seen the like tiny house movement,
Yep.
the ADU thing that's happened a bunch in the last few years. What do you think like really separates you guys from these different options here?
In terms of
Like,
retail or
like in terms of the physical, like what I don't want to say thing. The Nimble shops, right? From what they are, the actual product, but also like the tenancy availability. Like what can you accomplish here that you maybe couldn't in a shipping container?
I think I'll say one thing first. So I think that that Nimble is a very complementary company to a lot of like the prefabricated ADUs that are coming up. I mean, we like covet several. Everybody wants like their little ADU on the stream or on the side of the mountain
Right.
or whatever. And I think there's so many people doing so many interesting things in that space, and I think we're just a little bit of a piece of that. We're just like the retail sister to it.
Got it.
So that's part of it. And then in terms of like other retail specific things, I think with Nimble, because we're not relegated to the proportions of a shipping container,
Ah,
it can look like anything. It can, like, the proportions can change as long as it can fit on, go down the highway or go down rail to
yeah.
move around. That's really the only I don't know, limiting factors.
The other thing that's different, and I think it's also the reason why there's so many people in the ADU space, is that you're selling a product, you're selling a widget. And once you've completed that sale, your relationship is pretty much done. For us, so you have one customer. For us, we really have several customers. We have basically the person who owns the ground, that, we're catering to that person. We have a tenant on the other
Right.
side, and it's kind of like the relationship with the community
I was
as
just
well.
gonna say, I think the neighborhood is another customer because that's at the end of the day, it's like you're building the neighborhood.
And that's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence that there's so many people in the ADU space because, again, you can assign a specific cost to it, sell that thing, and be done with it.
Right.
For us, it's like a long-term relationship because we're not selling the Nimble shop
Yeah.
per se,
Generally, yeah.
and we have to stick with it, and we have to, maintain the property.
And so do you have, and right now, obviously you're just working with a couple of these, but I'm assuming one day you'd have to build out like a real estate team that
Yeah.
can manage the tenants and
Yep.
manage the leases. And
Yep.
100%. Where
Luckily, we know how to do that.
Well, and it sounds, again, kind of funny, but like there's a lot of people who retire, that work for Mobile Mini or for, Will Scott, which is like a job site trailer manufacturer. And a lot of those people, they retire because it's time for them to retire, but maybe they don't want to retire. So we'd be happy to work with folks like that at Nimble.
Yeah, I mean, I think we know we're in that place where I was going to say there's two of us, but there's really one and a half of us because I'm also doing. I mean, we're both doing other things as well. We also have other projects,
sure.
so we really are focused on like the scale up of Nimble and how to make production a real thing so that we can start at least partially meeting demand. Like we can start
Yeah.
supplying these things in a real way, because if David has to build another one by himself, nobody
I
wants
won't
that.
make it another summer. And
You,
Yeah, yeah,
you had
exactly.
the good excuse of COVID to dig into that. You know,
Right.
you had the time and the
Yeah,
whole world stopped.
exactly.
So,
Exactly.
can we talk about the Tampa Downtown Partnership and the plan on Franklin Street? And David, I don't know if it was on this thing I posted or if it was something else, and I don't even know if you guys are a part of that plan. But the reason why I wanted to bring it up is on Franklin Street, I noticed they had this little area of a parking lot that was like it's almost set up like Sparkman Wharf. It had shipping container looks on it. You could probably find that, David, on our Instagram if you scroll back to the Franklin Street plan with the partnership. To me, this sounds like exactly the application.
Karen Kress and Sean Drinkard have been real champions of this concept, and I think it's been multiple conversations. So it's everything from certain parks in downtown Tampa, maybe even certain parking lots, and then even certain streets.
Thoroughfares.
Yeah.
Thoroughfares.
Yeah.
So I think the interest is there, and I know that we're going to do something together
Yeah.
sometime in the future. We just haven't seen that specifics.
Like I even know the old, I forgot the restaurant that burned down on Franklin Street. I think everyone kind of knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right there, right?
Yeah.
Like how like that site is so challenging for a developer. You kind of, I think the back access would have to go through a different property. So you'd have to figure out an easement there. You have a site constraint. It's a very small property. The seller wants a good amount of money for it.
Sure.
It just has certain challenges where the city government, the downtown partnership, the people of the city want to see that street thrive, but all of these different constraints, I mean, we're sitting with a burned out building, right? So it's like, well, what happens in the next 3 to 5 years or even longer in the in between? This sounds like the perfect application almost for like an area that, like, hey, we know this is not going to get developed anytime soon. It's just too expensive. It doesn't make sense, including what I said earlier about North Downtown. Like, zoom out a little bit, David. So Karen was on the show. When was that? Was that this week? Time flies.
Oh,
So she was
Karen.
describing like the North Downtown vision plan.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yep.
And we were talking about some of the potential, but my thing with that is like, it is going to take so long. It
That's
is
not
going
gonna
to
be
take,
fast.
I mean, it's going to be decades before that area of the city can fully express itself. Now, what happens in between? I mean,
Yeah.
this really is the solution to that. Like, how do you activate that north side of Franklin Street? Now, you do have an opportunity. You have a lot of government owned land, right? Like FDOT owns some property up there. The city of Tampa owns some property. So there's relationships to be had there. But even on like the north side of 275, if you go north, David, like I think the Rialto Theater's for sale. Someone's bought the old hall on Franklin. Like, you've got certain little businesses in there. You've got the super popular yoga spot. And
Yeah.
because that area, there's a high perception of growth. The sellers want a good amount of money for that property, and then construction costs and insurance costs, and you add it all up, and it's like,
It doesn't
how
pencil.
long are we gonna wait?
Yeah.
Till this is done.
That's the curse of Tampa, right?
To me, this is the next kind of target area too. We talked about Ybor, Water Street. To
Yeah.
me, this really could be a cool area.
I mean, that's proximity to downtown. I
Yeah.
think there's already like everybody who already exists on Franklin are some of our favorite spots and our favorite people up there, like Cafe Hay and Oceanic and
Franklin
Florida
Street.
Florida School of Woodwork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is a really good friend. And
And-
then all
and
that's
s-
happening at the YMCA is going to be
Yes,
obviously
exactly. That's kind of the end
huge.
cap,
Yeah.
right, on that north
Yeah.
side.
And on a smaller scale, there's also real estate or residential development happening in those little pockets
Yeah.
Yes.
that they're also kind of on an island.
Right.
There's nothing there, and there's actually FDOT property just north of I-4 that, again, I'm sure FDOT eventually wants to just keep adding lanes, but in the interim, put a Nimble shop there. There's basically endless opportunities.
Yeah.
Where's that Loci Capital site that there's a big apartment building on an entire
Oh.
block? I
Yeah.
think it's this one right here
I can't
or
remember if
this
it's
one
that
right
one.
here.
It is
It's
that
one of those two. But what do hey, I want to get a latte. Well, I believe there's a couple little shops in here.
I mean,
I think
there's the
there's a
kombucha
couple.
place.
Yeah.
I don't think
Coffee's
the
one
coffee shop
example,
is
right? But like
there
a
anymore.
multitude of goods that those few
Yeah.
hundred people need. What are they going to do? Walk all the way to Armature Works?
Ugh.
That's another solution too, right? Is like
Yeah.
placing these around where people are already going to be. I mean, when this thing opens and gets full, you're going to have hundreds of people living there.
Yeah.
And I think part of the curation that we've talked about is really trying to get a critical mass that works. I'm sure that there are going to be municipalities that come to us and say, like, we have this site, we're not using it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I love you, but like that site is so desolate and like it's not.
Nobody's going to go there.
Yeah, nobody's going to go there even if we put 5 cute shops there. So we're going to have to kind of curate where the Nimble shop is going in a way that complements the tenants that are going to also take the risk to go in there.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure. So I guess we just need some money to
Yeah.
ramp up. To
Have
get
y'all
this
been to
going.
London by any chance?
It's been a while. It's
been a while.
and it's on our list to go together. We've not been together.
There's a market in London. Is it called? I think Chelsea Market's in New York. That's probably
Yep.
the wrong name. What's the market in London under those train tracks? Just look up big.
I know what you're talking about.
So my thing is, because Karen on the show with the Downtown Partnership was talking about, well, what do we do with this big highway? Like, we're in talks with the state, the city owns land around it. It's an interesting opportunity. It's a huge shaded area. Obviously, you have some challenges right now with people like hanging out under there or whatever.
sure.
But to me, and this is Florida. It rains a lot. It gets very hot in the summer. Outside isn't necessarily the most pleasant thing. These interstates are what they are. We're not going to remove them. They certainly serve a purpose, right? Evacuation, moving people around the region, etc.
Yeah, that
Borough Market in London is under these train tracks, and in an area where you would imagine would be like super dark and dingy and just totally unactivated, they've turned it into like literally one of the world's most coolest popular places. And you go there and there's basically these different kiosks. Click that picture on the bottom right. Like,
Yeah.
what if we rethought of
Yeah.
Interstate 275, built something in between like that, where you increase the amount of covered space, opened up a little bit more light,
Please.
and then put like nimble shops around and freaking turned it into like you could do farmers markets, you could activate it on the
And like
weekends.
you said, it's a place you can actually stand to be outside in a
Yes.
lot of the year
It
in Florida
it
when
never
it's
rains
less. Oh,
under
Yep.
there, and it's never in the sun, so
yeah.
it's kind of a win-win.
Those
Yeah.
are two massive things in Florida. If you can check those boxes off,
Yeah.
you will get that activation. And it's in an urban core
Yeah.
area. Like it's literally in kind of the middle of downtown. If you think of downtown as our entire urban core, I think moving towards that direction would be really, really interesting. You could even do an entrance like they have Borough Market. Um, what's the history behind it? Go all the way up to the top. Looks like it's been there a long, long time. I actually don't know the history. I just know it's under these tracks that would otherwise look like what we have now. Like,
Yeah.
why not rethink it?
And once something has been the way that it was for generations, think of South Tampa, for example. There are a lot of people upset when the expressway went through parts of South Tampa, and rightfully so. It destroyed a lot of neighborhoods. But to be able to say now, like, forget that being just a vacant
It's
wall.
no longer dead space.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and not make it a dead space, exactly.
Yeah.
London's oldest fruit and vegetable market, the history of Borough Market stretches back over 1,000 years.
All right. Well, we
What?
gotta get to work.
1,000 years, but what? Whoa, whoa, whoa! Maybe just the place, like the actual place, right?
Yeah.
Parliament market thrived over the centuries. Parliament shut it down in 1775. Very interesting. Over 100 stalls selling top quality ingredients and gourmet food under train tracks. Again, like in this country and especially in this city, I think a lot of people who have lived here for a long time have their head down a little bit and would listen to this idea I've talked about and would like totally laugh and think it's ridiculous. But when you travel, or if you just open up your aperture a little bit, you realize, wait, like why not though? Like why wouldn't this be a possibility? Why not try something like
For
that?
some reason, we as a culture are fine with parking hundreds of cars underneath these same expressways, which are full of gasoline.
Yeah.
They're basically 100 different bombs, but putting like some retail underneath the expressway is somehow a foreign concept.
I
Yeah.
think that's why it's so important to travel. Or if you can't travel, then travel with your eyeballs.
Sure.
Just because
Scroll Instagram on your
cities
phone.
all over the world do things like this. And New York has like some stuff happening under tracks for sure.
There's a lot. Pittsburgh has like
yeah,
a long.
but-
What's the
stretch of
thing in New York? They like redid a subway elevated
High Line.
Yeah, the High Line.
High Line. It's
High Line.
it's a linear park, right?
Yeah.
It's like
Beautiful.
yeah.
It's one of the coolest places to go in the city, to be outside. And yeah, it's okay to learn from your mistakes, I think. And like, oh, we did this thing. It wasn't the best idea. Let's fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just let's fix it. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be like, oh, we
Things will never
we
change.
effed it up.
Yeah.
And like things will never change. Like, let's just fix it.
Scroll down, David. Let me see what else we got here. I was just here last October and was looking around, literally thinking of our area and how you can implement it. I mean, the reality is in America, like this is not just Tampa, by the way. Like
Oh, no.
almost
Yeah.
probably every American city had urban renewal where these highways went through the city. And I can't think of a place that's done it, but wouldn't it be so interesting if Tampa was the first? You could even do again, right? Like if someone was passionate about doing like a little Tampa food spot and they just wanted like devil crab and Cuban sandwiches and stuff like that, that's a heavy lift. But again, if you had a sort of larger version of Sparkman Wharf that was protected by the rain and the sunshine and all that sort of stuff, like you start to get those creative people to come in and express their creativity and start new ideas.
There's also a lot of seeds already in Tampa, because if you think about all of the food concepts up by USF that are pretty, I don't want to call them exotic, but you definitely don't get them in the southern portion of Tampa. But if you gave them that opportunity to come into central Tampa, it would be fun. Like there's so many Indian concepts and so many like Mongolian
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah.
Super exotic stuff. Yeah. On is it Fowler up there? I know exactly what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
Restaurants where you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I didn't know I could
Am
get
I in
that kind
Tampa?
of right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. They need an incentive to make a bet down here. They're not going to go lease something off McDill.
No,
Right.
and it's too expensive for
It's
them,
too
I'm sure,
expensive.
because like retail space is expensive down
And
here.
again, I think those complement existing. So, like Oceanic is already on North Franklin Street. So you start to get that cross pollination of having these more exotic groceries or food uses next to one incredibly unique shopping experience.
Well, they're going to have to figure out something because if they really want to activate Franklin and have that YMCA Ellison development as the end cap, and Franklin Street, that was our main street. That was
Yeah.
where people went Christmas shopping, and that was the height of the retail in Tampa. And if they want to connect the central business district all the way to North Tampa Heights, you're going to need to solve for that in between. So let's see if we can lobby and make that happen.
And
Who do we need to talk to? Let's
some
make this happen.
future mayor of Tampa is going to have to figure out that state building that's right in the middle of Franklin Street that you literally have to drive around to get north on Franklin Street.
What? That's Tico, isn't
No,
it?
it's a state of Florida, so north of where.
Nope.
Division of Hotels and Restaurants. I'm looking it up right now. North, right.
Yep, there it is.
There it
Right
is.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an annoying
what?
little knuckle.
Look at that.
What
I
a-
will say Franklin Street, how it does wind and meander in the trees and the brick. What a unique street that could be, where you could have such a different pedestrian experience walking down that. Like you almost would feel like you're in a small town,
Yeah.
kind of. Huge opportunity. I'm actually very excited to see what the partnership does. I mean, they've got a nice $6 million, I think $6 million CRA fund to do some landscaping and benches and some placemaking. So there's some exciting stuff to come. But there's a long way to go there
There's
for
just,
sure.
it's so much. I mean, look at that. Just all parking lot.
It's a ton of parking. Good news is a lot of it's government owned.
Yeah.
And that is good because then you can create the right partnerships and do a real dedicated approach for the community. And I think they're going to be removing this Ashley exit, and the city owns this land and all this here, and so they'll partner with a developer, and there's a lot to come, but there is still the question of what do you do from here to get up here, right?
Yeah, that's a long way to travel on foot right now.
it really
that
is.
does not feel good at the moment.
David, I see you have a list there. Did we hit
I
everything you
think
wanted to hit?
we nailed it.
Listen,
Really good.
this was really fun. And I love what you guys are doing. And I think if you get your way, this will have a dramatic impact on not only this city, but a lot of cities, at least around Florida and around the United States.
It's
So,
exciting to see grow.
Yeah, absolutely. How can people reach out if anyone's listening that wants to get in touch with you? I know you have a website, which is nimble.shop.
Yep.
Correct.
And then Instagram is nimble.shops, plural.
Plural.
Still working on that nimble.shop handle for Instagram.
Yeah. Anyone who's interested can reach out. We'll
yeah.
jump on the phone, do a Zoom, whatever they want.
I think
Instagram,
the more
DM.
conversations that are happening like this, the better.
Yeah. Yeah, and recognizing on that point that it's a sort of novel thing, and someone might even come to you with something that you haven't thought of yet.
Please.
Happens every time we
Yeah.
talk to somebody.
Yeah.
We've had people talk to us about trading cards, like
Oh.
Pokemon
Yeah,
cards,
yeah.
and people talking about the way that people buy very luxury cars, like they don't really go to a dealership per se, but having a place to kind of sign documents that's a cute brick and
Interesting.
mortar type. Yeah.
It's super fat. I mean, we are only two brains, so like the more brains, the merrier. I think.
Every conversation is like, I didn't think about that.
Well, yeah. I mean, we didn't even talk about like the private professional use, right?
For sure.
Where like a
Yeah.
lawyer could just have meetings there
Yeah.
for exclusive clients
Yeah.
or something like that.
The
too.
reason why we're so bullish on like two-chair barbershops or two-chair salons is that business model has already been proven. At salon lofts, if you look at the math of what these individuals pay per square foot for that
For this
salon
tiny
loft
little
space,
cubicle in the
it's
middle of a sea of
incredibly
other
high.
cubicles.
Yeah.
But they're used to paying it for that. Why wouldn't they pay the equivalent amount or maybe even less to have
Their
brick and
own
mortar, their own space
their own
on 7th
space,
Avenue.
Yeah.
independent, outside of a shared.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, listen, thank you guys again. This was
Thank you.
awesome. All
Thanks
right.
for having us.
That's
This
all.
was really fun.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.